Forgotten Frontlines. The farmer who captured an entire battalion. The true story of Sergeant Alvin York.
Picture a cold autumn morning in 1918, October 8th. You're in a wooded valley in northeastern France. The trees are close together, the ground is uneven, and everything smells like damp leaves and churned earth. Somewhere ahead, guns are speaking in a harsh, metallic rhythm. Not distant thunder, something sharper, closer, personal.
And then, out of that noise, you notice something else. The silence that comes when people realize they might not make it through the next few minutes. A small American patrol has moved into the Argonne region as part of the huge push the Allies are launching at the end of the war.
The goal is simple in theory. Find a weak point, get around a German position, and hit the enemy from an angle they don't expect.
But theory and reality don't match in the Argonne. Dense woods, rough terrain, and entrenched machine guns turn simple plans into survival puzzles. On that morning, one American, Alvin York, ends up in a situation so extreme that later people can hardly believe it.
A lone soldier, armed with a bolt-action rifle and a pistol, faces an entrenched German machine gun position backed by far more men than he has. Before it's over, he kills more than 20 enemy soldiers. And here's the part that feels almost impossible. Marches 132 German prisoners back to American lines. Not with a heroic movie soundtrack, not with the whole squad rolling in behind him. He does it, at least in the decisive moments, with very few people left.
And the wildest part? This isn't the story of a lifelong soldier hunting for glory. It's the story of a farmer from Tennessee, deeply religious, morally conflicted, and for years trying to avoid war on conscience.
So, before you picture Alvin York as a battlefield myth, you have to meet him as a human being, a man shaped by poverty, by faith, and by a question that refuses to go away. What does it mean to kill, especially when you believe killing is wrong? Let's go back to where all of this begins.
A Tennessee life carved out of isolation. Alvin Cullum York is born in 1887 in Fentress County, Tennessee, one of 11 children in a remote mountain community. Their world is practical, not glamorous, not comfortable. They live close to the land because the land is what keeps them alive.
Roads are rough. Services are limited. The community doesn't get pulled into modern life the way bigger American cities do. Instead, it runs on a familiar cycle: subsistence farming, hunting, family networks, and religion. In that setting, you don't pick up survival skills as hobbies. You develop them because you have to. If you can't hunt successfully, you feel it in the pantry. If you can't keep working, the work keeps you from getting crushed by hunger. So York grows up learning the outdoors the way other kids might learn games, with repetition, patience, and focus. He becomes an excellent shot, not because he's training for war, but because the hunt is food, and the hunt is responsibility. His early experience with a rifle isn't about domination. It's about feeding a large family in a place where you can't just drive to the store. It's a detail that matters later. Because when you hear about what York does in France, people often focus on numbers and medals and legendary descriptions. But the truth is, what saves him is something quieter: control. The ability to stay calm, to aim deliberately, to pick a target and commit, again and again, without panicking. That kind of marksmanship doesn't come from a battlefield first. It comes from practice in ordinary life, under pressure that doesn't care about your mood. And York's early life isn't only about skills, it's also about friction. From trouble to faith. For a long time, York isn't simply the calm, saintly man people later imagine. As a young adult, he struggles, reportedly with drinking and with a temper that sometimes scares people around him, including his mother. When you grow up in a tight community, your behavior doesn't stay private. People notice, they judge, they worry. And York's mother, devout and deeply concerned, prays for him, pleads with him, and keeps seeing him drift off course. Then something changes.
In York's mid-20s, he has a conversion experience. It's not described as a quick, magic moment that makes him instantly perfect. It's more like a spiritual turning point that reorganizes how he interprets his life, what he believes, what he values, and what he thinks God expects from him. He becomes a highly devoted member of a strict Christian denomination that emphasizes pacifism. In their view, violence, including participation in war, is morally incompatible with the teachings of Christ. Now, imagine living with that belief during a time when the world is literally burning. World War I has been raging since 1914, and when the United States enters the war in 1917, the draft hits home. Suddenly, York isn't just watching history unfold, it's coming to his doorstep. And he has a problem, one that isn't political in the usual way. It's personal, it's spiritual. It's the kind of moral contradiction that won't let you sleep. If killing in war is wrong, then how can he train to kill? How can he pick up a weapon that is designed for exactly what he believes God forbids? For York, it's not a debate you can casually set aside. It's a question of conscience. The conscientious objector who can't escape the war. So York applies for conscientious objector status. The system, at least in theory, exists to exempt people whose religious beliefs prohibit them from fighting. For him, it's not a way to dodge hardship. It's a way to stay faithful to his understanding of God's moral law. He's trying to align his actions with his beliefs, but his application is denied. In part, the rules require membership in a recognized pacifist religious group, something that bureaucracies often interpret strictly. In part, wartime America is tense.
There's pressure to serve, to prove loyalty, to not make excuses. York isn't rejecting the nation out of anger. He's rejecting violence out of conviction. Still, the draft board says no. And when the legal doors close, there's only one remaining path. He's drafted and sent into the army in late 1917.
Now York is in a uniform, but inside, he's still asking the same question. Can I take a human life and remain faithful to what I believe? This is where the story starts to turn from mythic hero to something much more human. Because a lot of legends simplify people into symbols, but York's conflict isn't a background detail. It drives his decisions. It shapes his fear. It shapes his prayers. And it even shapes how he understands the moment when killing becomes unavoidable. Major Buxton and the long, uncomfortable search for answers. Within the Army, York encounters an officer named Major George Edward Buxton. Buxton takes a personal interest in York's moral struggle. He doesn't mock it. He doesn't dismiss it as weakness. He engages York in serious religious conversation, scripture, moral reasoning, the meaning of war, and whether there are situations where violence might be defensible. This isn't the kind of talk you have in a hallway between shift changes. It's described as extended discussion. Time spent thinking, reading, and wrestling with interpretation. And York, who has been trained by faith to think in terms of absolutes, is now confronted with an uncomfortable possibility that the always in his belief might be more complex than he assumed. The key is not that York suddenly becomes excited about war. The key is that he continues to take his moral questions seriously. Eventually, during leave, time given specifically so he can reflect and resolve his conflict, York prays and thinks through the issue in a way that feels deeply personal. According to later accounts, he comes to a conviction that he can serve in combat while still remaining faithful, but only under specific moral conditions. For York, those conditions revolve around defense, protecting others, especially people who cannot protect themselves. In his mind, that distinction matters. It's the difference between aggression for glory and violence as a last resort necessity. When you look at his battlefield actions, you can almost see this framework hovering in the background. York doesn't describe his killing as joy. He describes it as duty, responsibility. Even in victory, he seems to wrestle with the weight of what he's doing. And then, of course, reality arrives. The war doesn't care about theology. The war moves forward anyway. By 1918, York is serving as a corporal with the 82nd Infantry Division. The big offensive that will define the final months, Meuse-Argonne, is underway. It's the kind of operation with enormous stakes and brutal ground-level outcomes.
And on October 8th, York is about to step into one of the most intense moments of his life.
The Meuse-Argonne Offensive, where plans meet machine guns. The Meuse-Argonne Offensive is the final major push of the war. It's huge, over 1 million American soldiers involved. Not because anyone is confident in a clean victory, but because commanders believe they found the path that can break German defenses. Argonne is wooded and difficult.
The terrain isn't friendly. Dense forest means visibility is limited. Movement is slow. Everything echoes. Every sound seems to bounce between trees.
And German positions are built to last. In World War I, machine guns become the backbone of defense. They're not glamorous, but they're deadly. When they're set up well, they turn open ground into death zones.
On October 8th, York's unit is ordered to advance against German positions that are pinning American troops with machine gun fire from higher ground. A smaller patrol, 17 men including York, is sent to maneuver around the enemy position.
The idea is to approach in a way that lets them attack the machine guns from the side or rear. You can understand the plan. You can also understand why it fails to stay theoretical once the bullets start.
Because the forest doesn't care about tactics. The forest hides things. The forest prevents quick support. And if you get spotted at the wrong moment, you become the target of a carefully prepared trap. A sudden contact in the trees.
The patrol moves through the dense woods. For a moment, it seems they might pull it off, getting behind the German lines and catching defenders by surprise. Then they encounter German soldiers in a small clearing.
There's a brief, chaotic engagement. Less a battle planned over hours, more a clash that happens because the universe decided you'd meet at exactly that spot. The Americans capture some German soldiers, officers as well.
But the clearing doesn't stay quiet. The sound of fighting alerts German machine gunners nearby. The Germans are positioned on higher ground, overlooking the area. From their perspective, the Americans below are suddenly exposed, like a target you can't resist.
When the machine guns open fire, it's fast. It's devastating. In moments, 6 of the 17 American soldiers are killed. 3 more are wounded. York is among the surviving unwounded. And because war is cruel with timing, the patrol's senior leadership is hit hard. Now York, though just a corporal, has to function as the point man in a situation that is rapidly collapsing. This isn't a movie hero moment where you look around and see teammates ready to follow. It's more like you look around and realize everyone you expected to lean on is gone, wounded or out of action. You have very few people. The Germans have many, and the machine guns are still firing. Pinned down, when retreat feels like death. Here's what the tactical problem looks like in plain terms. York and the remaining Americans are in relatively open terrain at the wrong angle. The enemy has weapons on elevated positions. Their fire is controlled. Their view is better. And their numbers give them room to replace fallen men and keep the guns running. In a normal battlefield story, you might imagine a quick withdrawal. Fall back, regroup, live to fight another day. But withdrawal isn't always possible. If you retreat while machine guns are sweeping your position, you become a moving target across open ground. Staying doesn't feel safe either, so the decision becomes brutal. York faces an immediate reality. If nothing changes, his handful of men will likely die where they stand. And because the patrol has pushed beyond effective communication, there's no quick call for artillery help. Reinforcements aren't arriving in time. So the next minutes belong to the people who are already there, York included. This is where his skills and temperament matter most, because what comes next isn't random bravery. It's not just charging the enemy. It's a kind of controlled pressure designed to break the German advantage one piece at a time. The marksmanship that comes from hunting, not glory. York begins firing at German positions. He's using a bolt-action rifle, slow enough that you can't spray bullets like a fire hose. That means every shot needs purpose, and purpose is exactly what he seems to have. He targets the machine gun crews, but he doesn't just shoot randomly at the general direction of noise. He chooses.
One reason is practical. In a dense battlefield, visibility is limited. Another reason is psychological. He's trying to keep the Germans from organizing effectively.
Later accounts describe a tactical approach, drawn from hunting. York apparently trained his instincts on how to read movement, how to notice when someone exposes themselves, and then use that moment to strike before they can vanish back into safety.
This timing matters. Machine gunners don't stand perfectly still forever. They adjust, they reposition. They expose parts of their bodies as they work the weapon, feed belts, or glance around for threats. York is watching for those moments. Instead of taking shots that are hopeful, he takes shots that are deliberate.
Again and again, he forces the Germans to respond to a threat they can't quickly neutralize. And here's the crucial part. The Germans can't easily locate him at first. In the trees and terrain, a shooter can become a ghost, appearing only as a brief muzzle flash, then disappearing behind cover.
Sustained, accurate fire from a place you can't easily suppress is terrifying. Not because you're suddenly outmatched in numbers, but because you feel powerless against a threat you can't pinpoint. At some point, German soldiers attempt a direct counterattack, a bayonet charge. In close conflict like this, charges happen when defenders believe they must overwhelm a threat physically rather than let it keep firing. You might think York has only one option: hold his ground, shoot as fast as possible, hope. But again, York relies on discipline. Accounts describe him using the same kind of targeting method during the chaos, going for the men most likely to disrupt the charge and most likely to be exposed first. In other words, he isn't just firing at bodies in the general direction. He's reading who is moving forward and who is most vulnerable in the moment. Even when he runs low on rifle ammunition, because battles like this are measured in seconds and rounds, he adapts rather than panics. He draws his pistol.